you're probably losing deals that you should be winning because you don't understand what objections are. So for me personally, we have two parts of an objection. We have the second part, which is the overcome. I need to speak to my wife, I need to speak to the missus, I need to think about it, I haven't got the money. But for me personally, before I get to that second part of the objection, I want to understand the first part, which is, do they see value in what we do? Do they believe we can help them? Do they believe that we can solve their problems? If they, at their core, do not see value in what we do, they aren't going to buy. They aren't going to buy. It doesn't matter what we say, they aren't going to buy. This is why it's so important first to find out if they see value. Because without value, they won't buy. The two main reasons that this is so important is, the first one is because if they don't see value, it doesn't matter what we say, they aren't going to buy. If they have any doubt about our product or service, they aren't going to buy. That's it. It's that simple. So before we get into overcoming the objection, we need to first understand, do they see value? Because if they see value, then we can go on to the next part of dealing with the actual objection. Money, need to think about it, need to speak to my wife, I don't know if now's the right time. But like I said, there's no point going to that second part of the objection if they don't see value, because they won't buy. You wouldn't buy something you had doubts on. It doesn't matter if they give you a great price. It doesn't matter if they let you come in and try it. If you, at your core, don't believe it's right and it's not going to solve your problems, you won't buy. We have to understand as well, fear of change, never being 100% sure if this is going to work is completely normal, but they need to have a high enough belief that there's an opportunity, that there's a possibility that this will work. Because fear of change, not being 100% sure, is all normal. It's completely normal buying behavior. But doubting if your product or service is good enough, that's not normal buying behavior, and it needs to be addressed. The second reason that this is so important to find out if they find value is, it is our only chance to address any doubts, confusion about if this is right for them. If you've been in sales, you know it's so hard to get a prospect back on the phone. It's so hard to get a prospect back into a sales call if they don't, especially if they don't believe from the first time you met that it's right for them. It's near impossible. So this is your only opportunity to address any doubts they have. And how do you do that? When you start to question them about if they find value, you need to loop back into the sale and show them the parts they're confused about. So you make sure, if you can't close them on that call, you know 100% you've addressed all of the problems around the doubts they have of the value, in terms of, will it do this? Are you sure it can do that? I'm not sure this will fit into that. You know, these things that you can address on the call today. The problem is, the way most people learn or start to coach objection handling is like this. When they say A, you say B. If they say this, you say that. The problem with this is it's not how we learn. Imagine how you learn a language. If the only thing you understood about that language is what do I say when the other person responds, you would never speak the language. For example, if you're learning Spanish and the teacher says, when someone says hola, you say hola. The way that we learn a language is, we hear what they're saying, we process it, we understand it, and then we reply based on our understanding of what they're telling us. And dealing and handling and learning objections is the same. The best way to understand how to deal with an objection is to hear it, process it, understand it, and then reply based on what they're telling you. So that's what we're going to get into. So how do you actually understand if the prospect sees value? I wasn't going to get into it, but I will just give a couple of examples. When you hear an objection, I need to think about it. Remember, we want to find out first, do they see value? So you say, I need to think about it, James. Mr. Prospect, Dave, completely understand that you want to think about it. The fact you want to think about it means it's important to you. And that's the clients who come in and get the best results, the ones who it's important for. Dave, has anyone ever helped you make a decision like this before? Let's walk through it just so you feel better about making it, to feel like you're making the right decision. Do you see value in what we do, yes or no? Prospect going to say yes. Do you have the money to get started? Like, you want to say it in that tone where it's not a big deal. You're not saying, do you have the money to get started? It's like, do you have the money to get started? It's like you're already answering yes for them. They're going to say yes. Cool. And do you believe we would get you closer to your goals than you doing this by yourself? They're going to say yes. If they say yes to those questions, we know they see value, which is good. And then we can ask after that, Dave, you believe we'd get you closer to your goals at a faster rate than you doing this on your own, and you have the money to get started. Honestly, man, like, what are you most afraid of happening? And then we get the real objection. But we can't ask what they're afraid of happening if they don't see value, because it doesn't matter, because they won't buy if they don't see value. Another thing that you can ask is, 1 to 10, Dave, how are you feeling about getting started? Or I need to think about it. Cool, completely hear you, Dave. Just out of curiosity, 1 to 10, how are you feeling about getting started? They're going to say 10 being, I love it, I'm ready to get started today. 1 being, you hate me and you never want to see me again. Just be a bit jokey. They're going to give you an answer. Let's say they give you a 7, they give you an 8. You can then say, cool, I hear you. What would make it a 10? And they're going to give you something. They will give you a real objection, which is, I need to speak to my wife before I can get started. And then you can say, okay, cool. But just out of curiosity, do you see the value in what we do? Like, do you believe this will help you get to your goals? Or when they give you an 8 or a 7 and you say, what would it take to get to a 10? They might give you something in there. I'm not sure about this. I don't know if I'm the right customer for you. And then you can loop back into the sale and address the value problem. And once we understand if the prospect sees value, then we can get into the second part of the sale, which is overcoming the real objection. But like I said, the only concept I want you to think from this video is, I need to understand first if the prospect sees value at their core in what we do. Because if they don't, they won't buy. And once I find out if they see value, I can then get on to the objection handling. So I think when you hear the objection, we've got 2 parts. Do they see value? Yes or no? Address that. If they do, we go on to the second part, which is, I need to speak to my wife. I need to think about it. I haven't got the money. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever they say. Then we address that. But if you skip checking if they see value in what you do and you go straight into the objection handling part, you're fighting a losing battle, because it doesn't matter what you say, it doesn't matter what you do, they won't buy if they don't see value. And if they end that call without seeing value or believing deep down that what you do could work, you'll never hear from them again, and you'll be chasing, sending emails, calling, doing it all for nothing. And you will never get them back on the call, ever. So remember, we will never overcome money, time, circumstances. Think about it, speak to this, do that if they don't see value. So always understand, do they see value first? Thanks for watching.